Hello everyone, Mr. Happy here, and in this video I want to share with you all my thoughts on the 1 hour of Final Fantasy 15 I got to play at PAX West. They had the demo available that was essentially the same as the 53-minute gameplay video that I did my thoughts on a couple of weeks ago. But let me tell you, getting hands on Final Fantasy 15 gives me a totally different impression of what my reactions were to the 53-minute gameplay video. So I'll start this by saying I'm probably going to rant a lot in this video. I apologize ahead of time. I do know what I want to say, but I'm just so excited to say a lot of those things. I expect them to drag on. And also, TLDR, I'm no longer concerned about 15 being a flop. It would take a lot of technical issues to cause that, and not actual story or combat or gameplay, anything related to that issues. I am confident in that. That being said, I am still holding it to probably like an 8 out of 10. That's what my prediction is for the average score for the game, 8 out of 10. I don't think it's going to be a 10 out of 10 game. So let me talk about why that is no longer the issue. And I'm going to break it down point by point based on what I experienced in my 1 hour of footage I got to play at PAX West. I'm just playing the 53 minutes of gameplay footage over what I'm doing right now. I feel like that's the best thing for me to do because I don't have any footage of my own from PAX West. So let's start with the story. Brotherhood and Kingsglaive have already done a lot to quell my fears about Final Fantasy 15's story. 13 story, I wasn't invested in. Lightning Returns, despised it. 12, I don't have great memories of. And even 14, the MMO, there's a lot of points where it feels like the story or side stories are very lackluster. So I was a little concerned about the story, even though I know it's a single-player Final Fantasy and there's always some aspect about it that I enjoy. After playing the demo, I won't tell you what happens, but if you've seen the 53-minute gameplay footage, or even if you're watching it right now, after the initial Chapter 0, you'll see it immediately goes into them pushing the car in Chapter 1. There's about 5 minutes of story footage in between Chapter 0 and Chapter 1 that isn't shown in the gameplay. That 5 minutes just made me no longer concerned about if the story is going to be good or not. It was just such a well-done narrative, and especially if you've seen Brotherhood and Kingsglaive, it has so much more meaning because you know the events that are occurring either before or around these opening cutscenes. I won't say what they are. I would love to spoil you on it right now and explain why, but I'll save you the spoilers. There won't spoil that, but we'll probably spoil other things along the way. Now, the gameplay. This is probably the biggest point that people have. It's not turn-based. It's moved completely into action gameplay. And honestly, Episode to Sky, I got the hang of the gameplay, but it wasn't smooth. It wasn't entirely smooth at the very least. Platinum demo, it was just, you only got to control Noctis. There was no sort of interactions with party members, which I feel is actually a strength of Final Fantasy 15, is the interactions with your party members. And there was the magic. You didn't get to craft the magic. You just stepped on a draw point and you got to use it. You got to see what the most basic effect of magic was. And yes, it was nice, but Platinum Demo as a whole just wasn't satisfying. Discay was more satisfying, even with what I consider to be the worst combat system. It was nice to see some of the new weapons, but it just didn't have the same weight as playing this most recent demo at PAX West. I am no longer concerned about the fluidity of combat. Selecting your party members' actions is fluid. Combining it with your actions is fluid as you unlock more skills through the Ascension grid, which is essentially how you progress through the game in almost a gambit, or I'm sorry, not a gambit, a license board-esque way of moving through like different trees with different skills. It's just, it flows so well. When I first started playing the demo, I didn't understand the new way that it flowed, and I didn't play as well as I would have liked. By the time I was done with that hour, I was able to chain like massive combos together and also meaningfully dodge attacks without it feeling too easy, but it being early game, it also wasn't exactly difficult. It just felt really good, and I never felt like at any point I was being held back. Like, my skill was always the #1 determining factor. Do I think it's going to require a great deal of skill to beat especially the early parts of the game? No. I think anyone could have done pretty well at the early points of the game, of the demo I played. That's expected of a new game nowadays. But that being said, I was having so much fun figuring out, how do I want to use this party attack to then combo into this link attack, then combo into this magic spell that I crafted. It was phenomenal. I was so happy with seeing it. And I didn't even get to use wait mode. And I think wait mode is going to add quite a bit, where you're able to lock on to the different body parts and teleport direct or attack or warp strike directly to them. I think that's going to add another layer that I'm going to really enjoy, because I actually was a big fan of the VAT system in Fallout, mostly because of the slowdown animations, but I did also enjoy it for the practical use, and I think the wait mode's practical use will then add another layer on. I also didn't get to test new summons, which they've been very secretive about after Episode to Sky. Just we don't know how the summons really work in the game yet. The world, massive. I feel like it felt sometimes a little too massive, and I still am actually concerned about that, where I'm afraid of empty space, of there being like a lot of meaningless space. But there were things like magic draw points, or the ability to gather ores or gather herbs, and then those skill up, and then you can get better items. Or you can gather items from more higher level nodes and things like that. There's a lot of very small items hidden throughout the world. Like even if you just want to look behind a random crate at a gas station, you might find a useful item, or you might find an Easter egg item. That was true in Episode to Sky as well, which I really liked. So the world, but the world is beautiful. It's the music is great. The animations have gotten a lot better, especially when you're running. The UI has improved, not substantially, but it's improved. It wasn't a horrible UI before, but it's only gotten better since the previous iterations that we've seen, especially with all the things going on. And that was really the meat of what I got to do. The character interactions were also good. I like that when someone asks me a question, I can get ability points, or I can get skill ups based on the way that I answer questions. I love that in games, and that's I'm glad to see that appearing in Final Fantasy 15. Hey, what did you need? I would like to ask for a loan. If you guys could loan me some cash, as opposed to me having to do this other thing. Now that's a poor example, because I believe that decision actually ends the same no matter what. But then there's other decisions later where it's like, hey, can you do this for me? And it's like, sure, I'll absolutely do it. And then you have another option, it's like, if you pay me. And then you have another option where it's like, no, I don't want to do it. And I picked pay me, and a party member's like, good thing you asked for money, because we need it badly. And then I got an extra skill up with that party member. So I like those decisions, being able to improve my gameplay experience early on. And it's something to talk about with players, and it's something for optimal ways to play the game. And I love optimizing and things like that. I didn't get, unfortunately, by the time I was done with the hour, I had just unlocked the car. I've heard people that have gone through it a little faster. I really took the time to like take it all in. So people who have gotten to the car controls, I've heard have improved greatly. It feels really good to drive the car nowadays. Of course, people love the music. The chocobo racing that was at PAX West as well was a separate demo, but that one actually, the controls were good. I wouldn't say they were stellar, but considering you're riding a chocobo, it's efficient enough for what it is. You know, chocobo racing in Final Fantasy games has never been like crazy good to control, whether it's ridiculous camera angles of 7, managing the stamina, or just being on rails like in Final Fantasy 14. I've never known it for having the most stellar of controls, but it was good at the very least. And I'm hoping that stays a consistent level of effort for things like fishing and other mini games that we're going to be seeing. And I hope I get to play Justice Monsters 5 inside of Final Fantasy 15, because as you guys know, I've been playing that on my phone as well, and I've actually been enjoying that quite a bit also. What else do I have to talk about? I guess there's not really too much more. The one major gripe I had with the demo is the anti-aliasing on the hair. Now, I'm someone who generally doesn't care about graphics, but I don't like when something's grainy looking. You know, that's just not appealing to the eye, and it's very distracting from everything else that's going on. I think that's probably one of the things they wanted to fix up. The anti-aliasing on the hair, it absolutely needs work. I'm assuming that at some point, to make an optimization, they reduced the way that the hair renders. I remember in The Witcher 3, the way they rendered the hair was actually one of the most debilitating things about the game, because it made machines that, regardless of how strong they were, it just destroyed the game's way of processing. Because when there's enough people with enough with enough hair on the screen, and every single strand is being rendered, it completely de-optimizes the game. And I think that might have been an issue at some point in development, which is why it was the way it was there. And they're probably working on fixing that up before November 29th. Now, those are my thoughts on the demo I got to play. I would have paid $60 on the spot. If they had said, hey, you play this demo, if you don't like the game, you walk away, you don't have to play it, it'll come out in November. But if you like this exact version of the game, we'll let you buy it for $60, and then we'll actually release the full version, like the finished version, for the same price later. I would have gladly paid $60 to take that version of Final Fantasy home and Final Fantasy 15 home and play it. That's not just because I'm being impatient to play it. It's because at the end of the hour, I was like, shit. I was just like getting started, and I really want to play however many hours come after this. So they did a good job. They now, after playing it, I'm confident in my purchase about Final Fantasy 15, and I hope that when I'm done playing it in December, because I won't finish playing it by November 30th. I feel like my money was well spent. That is the number one concern of 15. I want it to do well, but I don't want it to just do well because it needs to do well. I want it to do well because it earned it. And right now, Final Fantasy 15 feels like it's earning my dollar. Now, on top of that, there was a Final Fantasy 15 panel, which I attended live. We didn't get to play it, but they got to explain the magic crafting a little bit better. We got to see a dungeon, an optional side dungeon, which was really good. And the design choices and the magic crafting were also very impressive points to me. I did get to test the magic crafting in the demo itself, but I didn't get as crazy in options because they didn't have as crazy items. So for those who don't know, you draw magic out of magic sources in the world, and you can also get it as drops from enemies, and then you can take them and craft them. What I didn't know is you can actually combine magic with items to add effects to your spells. One of my favorite examples was combining fire sources with a potion to create Heal Fire. Essentially, it shoots a fire at the enemy that will damage the enemy, but if it hits you or any allies nearby, you'll actually heal. So you're adding the ability to make magic less dangerous, which has always been a thing about magic in Final Fantasy 15. Since its inception, it's always said that magic is not something that is just automatically safe to cast. You have to consider distance, you have to consider any hazards nearby, like water on the ground for lightning, or tar or oil on the ground that'll ignite if you shoot fire at it. And having something like Heal Fire, yes, if I cast Heal Fire on it, it'll probably still explode and damage me if I'm in the area. But in other situations, if I cast it up front and it would have damaged me or burned my clothes or whatever, now I don't have to worry about that. Now it's actually healing me. The example that they showed was the beetle. They combined a beetle shell with fire and lightning sources. What happened there is they got 3 casts of quad cast Fyra Thundara, which essentially meant that one single use of the spell hit 4 times, and it was both Fyra and Thundara at the same time. I can only imagine the combination of magic, and now I'm not worried about drawing magic. I'm just starting to think of all the crazy ways I'm going to be able to combine items with fire, lightning, or ice magic, which were the 3 sources that we've seen, and I'm assuming will be the primary 3 sources in the game itself. I'm now very excited for the magic system, which I originally was concerned about because it looked like a new age version of Final Fantasy VIII draw system. I'm not concerned about that much anymore. Moving forward, on top of that, magic's not linked to stats, so you could just draw magic, save it up, and then use it at a meaningful moment. I could save up and get 99 casts, and then I'll probably never get through all those casts in a reasonable amount of time. Another thing was the dungeon. Now, we've played a dungeon in Episode to Sky, and technically all Platinum Demo is essentially a really weird dungeon, and I like the atmosphere. I like that it's dark. I like that one of my favorite things about the dungeon they showed, the mines that they showed, I think it began with a B, like the Bavul mines or something. Goblins. They were only level 7, and he was level 17. But the fact that while he's running through the dungeon, these goblins, they're tricksters, and you feel like they're tricksters because you can walk down a mine shaft, and all of a sudden, a goblin just shoves a minecart down the area, and then it knocks you on the ground, it deals damage, it's knocking your party members out of the way, and then a goblin jumps out and he starts attacking you. They're stealing your potions, they're using them on themselves. It felt like those monsters are... they're a lot more involved in the entire world. Like, this is... you don't feel like they're just, like, random enemies that you encountered. You feel like they live in these mines. They go out at night, which we know is a thing. The enemies at night change, and they warn you about that very early in the game. And they warn you about it in Episode to Sky. It feels like they have a reason for why they do that. Like, we want to steal items, and we also just want to cause as much trouble as possible. And I get that feeling, on top of goblins just being known for mobbing up so many goblins at once. He even fought a level 38 enemy that killed him in about 2 hits. I think if he was really skilled, he probably could have taken it on. But I had a feeling he was going to either die deliberately, or he would just to show you like how much a difference, like the level difference between you and an enemy can make. But on top of that, it was like one of those samurai enemies, I think, that they showed. They also showed like events inside dungeons, like, hey, what is that in front of me? What the heck is that? Oh, okay, it was just 3 goblins standing on top of each other, and then they pushed a minecart. Like, okay, it was nothing. And then all of a sudden, a real threat pops out and knocks you down. An elevator shaft. Now you're at 0 health. You got to use a potion real quick because you're just dealing with like your permanent HP bar. And it's just those dungeon hazards. That's what, and they said it themselves. When I think of old dungeons in Final Fantasy games, I remember the dungeons that either pissed me off or I love the design of. So when I think of a dungeon that pissed me off, I think of the one in Final Fantasy IV that I think it's where the sylphs live. I can't remember the name of the cave, but essentially there's poison on the ground. There's enemies that inflict tons of status effects on you, and all it does is lead to one of your previous party members that if you have an item, you can make him stand up and you can have a cutscene with him a little bit early. So and these are the kind of things I'll remember that I got knocked down that mine shaft, and I'll know that for the next time, and I'll be able to prepare for it, and I'll be able to talk about it like, dude, when that happened, dude, I was like, what the heck? It's a memory I'll be able to share, and I can already tell that those dungeons are probably going to develop memories like that one. So the last thing they showed was a boss fight against a Magitech armor, where they showed how the Magitech armor has like 5 or 6 different weapons, and if you time your attacks properly, you can disable the weapons. On top of that, we already know that they're like, if you disable the legs, it'll fall over and doesn't have much movement. It has different weapons depending on your distance, either like a machine gun or a spread missile or a laser or a ground attack, just all different things depending on the angle of your character, the distance, how high you are off the ground, things like that. They beat that, they finished the mission, and then they showed the beginning of the Aranea Highwind boss fight, a character who they've been teasing for a very, very long time. They showed how the bosses have special attacks, and how even though you kind of know the way that bosses are going to dodge, they attack frequently enough that you can't just hold down the attack button and wait. It's not like and honestly, Episode of the Sky gave me that feeling too. When you fight the behemoth Deadeye, if he's attacking you, at times it feels impossible to get an attack off. When he's attacking your allies is when you usually go in for the more meaningful attacks. Otherwise, you have to play a careful balance game, and it's definitely a lot better than the Chocobos was, where you would basically just try and make sure he didn't accidentally step on you. I'm really curious to see how the boss fights against humanoid enemies is going to look, and even more excited to get how the boss fights against large Titan-like enemies are going to look like. There was also a hidden Titan demo. The Titan demo was hidden, apparently, at PAX West. I didn't get to try because I didn't know it was there. It was like hidden at some other booth that wasn't even like Final Fantasy 15 related. But either way, I'm really happy with what I saw. I'm really happy with what I got to play. And I'm really looking forward to November 29th. Thank God we have World of Final Fantasy to tide us over, which is also looking to be good. I'll probably do an update video regarding that, although I did not get to play the demo of that at PAX West. Anyway, let me know what your thoughts are on the recent gameplay footage of Final Fantasy 15. If you were at PAX West, be sure to share your experiences with Final Fantasy 15. And if you saw the panel, then share your thoughts on that below. If you didn't see the panel, go watch it now. Anyway, thanks for watching this video. Be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share, and stay tuned for more news on Final Fantasy 15 and other Final Fantasy titles. Anyway, thank you for watching, and until next time, take care.